Hello and welcome to another episode of the FUMS podcast, where we speak to the stupid disease as it deserves and tell it FUMS every day. Today's guest is heading to Mexico to undergo HSCT, stem cell therapy. It's intense and scary and the only hope to stop her MS she feels she has left. But first, let me remind you that we have a shop full of cool FUMS logoed items like face masks that share your FUMS attitude with the world over at fumsnow.com/shop. And I send out a newsletter every week with the top 6 topics in MS called the FUMS 6-Pack. Stay informed on what's going on in MS without having to do the research yourself. You can sign up for it at fumsnow.com/get-the-scoop. My guest today is Jenny Angus. Jenny was very physically active, had a long career in vacation and long-term rental property management, and was a professional artist when MS, or a poltergeist as Jenny calls it, showed up in her life. Originally misdiagnosed in 2004, the disease was left to advance unchecked for 10 years before receiving the correct diagnosis of MS. Her journey with MS has been a very difficult one, and she's made a decision to try stem cell therapy as a last-ditch effort to stop the monster from further advancement. It's an interesting story and one that will inspire you. Let's meet her. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm absolutely honored to be here with you.
I'm so happy you're here. I've known Jenny for a little while now and just adore her. You'll fall in love with her like I did. Everybody does. She's wonderful. And I'm just,
Thank you.
talk about being honored. I'm super honored that you're going to share your story on my podcast. Thank you so much. So let's start with the story of you and your life prior to MS. So bring us right up to the time you started having symptoms and were diagnosed.
Gosh, well, I had a really full life. I was really into the outdoors. Really loved my sports. I was passionate about a lot of different things in life. And I was the kind of person that wanted to seize every opportunity that I could that came my way, something different, something new, go somewhere new, explore something.
Yeah, real
Um,
adventurer, weren't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
I like to some crazy things that my mom got kind of scared about. And I was born in Toronto and educated there. And then in my 20s, I wanted to live the dream, and I moved to Whistler, BC, which is a ski resort.
So
People don't know about
beautiful.
it. So I could work, and then I'd have the back garden as my place where I would do all my sports. So
Yeah,
it was like it lived the best of both worlds.
right.
It was amazing.
Such a beautiful area. I've been there, and honestly, that is my favorite place I've ever been is British Columbia. It's just stunningly gorgeous there. And then to have, such a great fun place to try out all your adventures. Well, good for you. And then, okay, so you're in British Columbia and you're in your, did you say early 20s, mid 20s, something like that?
Yeah, about my mid 20s, I
Okay.
moved there.
And
Yeah,
then what happened? What were your symptoms and how long did it take to get diagnosed?
a long time. It
Mm,
wasn't until, it was probably about 20 years ago, 22 years ago, I had my first symptom, and I've been playing co-ed softball for about 10 years. And I was able to, consistently throw a ball
hmm
like where I wanted it to go, it would go. And then one day it just stopped. I couldn't throw the ball anymore. Like it would fall out of my hem behind my back, or I wouldn't let go of the ball, or it would go off in some crazy direction, things that had never ever occurred in my life. And
Mm.
I couldn't even feel that it had fallen out of my hands. And so I obviously quit playing on the team because I was so embarrassed and humiliated and
Mm.
didn't understand what was wrong. And nobody said, "Hey, that's really abnormal."
Yeah.
And so fast forward a little bit, and I had a car accident on September 11th, like the September 11th,
Jeez.
and I just happened to be in Toronto, so it was really, everybody, of course, felt so hideously for what had happened, and
Yes.
the city was a mess, and I'd had a car accident, and not a major one, but enough that I was left with residual symptoms. So I eventually got an MRI the following year, and it showed a lesion in my C spine.
Mm.
And the radiologist that read the report, that saw the scan said she needs to have a brain MRI to rule out demyelinating disease.
Mm.
And fast forward to 2004, and I still had symptoms that were, persisting in my arms. And I got to see an MS neurologist, the same clinic that diagnosed me 10 years later, but that neuro said, no, you're neurologically fine. Now, of course, I was, because I was in a relapse at the time. And yeah, that I'm not going to order a brain scan, and that lesion in your C spine, like the C6, I think it was still there. And just go home, you don't have MS. So I went home thinking that I was free and clear. And I,
Yeah.
I, I never wanted MS. Like, for me, I was relieved, because I
Right.
knew what the disease could do to people. I'd seen it at a really young age, and I was petrified of having the worst thing like MS.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I went on with life and just tried to get back into things, and I got back into my alpine skiing and biking, road biking, mountain biking, lots of volunteer work, and um, my art, of course. And I dealt with relapses, but didn't know they were, because they were typically
Mm.
sensory in origin, or I'd had a sports injury. So we always put it down to sports related
Sure.
injuries. Like if there was a motor function that had
Mm.
been lost, and like a pathway, and we'd work on, re-stimulating that pathway. And again, it was all in the sort of circle of, it's a sports related injury. So
Right.
that's how it kept being buried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really typical story. I mean, I can trace my symptoms back to about 1986, 87, and I didn't get diagnosed till 2008. And so it's only in retrospect that I recognize what I was going through with little relapses. Like, who knew? But I chalked it up to all kinds of things. I hear this from a lot of people. I think it's not uncommon, unfortunately. So you had a career in both rental property management, and you were a professional artist. And I know that these things were impacted by MS, right? You had to essentially let those things go. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. And initially with the rental property management, because that was something I committed a lot of my heart and soul into, and it was my own business. And I couldn't function. I mean, my brain was gone. My arms and legs were severely affected, and I was hospitalized really early on after my diagnosis.
Mm.
And I was hiding that I was diagnosed as well
Oh,
from
yeah, yeah, yeah.
from everybody that I worked with, and clients and whatnot. And then, I mean, I just had to let the business go. Like, I just, what, you can't function. And it was just kind of bit of a slower process where, I had assistants and partners, and more to the point where, it's just not a full time, not your career
Yeah.
anymore. And then my art, I, that was the hardest thing emotionally, because that's something that is most my identity
It's you.
at heart. It's
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when I paint, it's like it's my heart and my soul. Everything that I feel, like everything I'm inspired by, the outdoors. Like I did a lot of landscapes and oil painting and pen and ink drawings, and I actually lost the ability to paint about a year before my diagnosis. And my dominant hand was in such pain holding a paintbrush, and it would involuntarily like spit the
Just
brush
let
out
it
of my hand, and
go.
I'd be
Mm.
like it does this spastic um, kick out. I'd be like, "What's up?"
Wow.
And it was in so much pain, and it wasn't doing the right thing. And cognitively, the visions I had in my brain weren't coming out into my hand, and I had that pathway was,
Mm.
really quite, like I had it dialed for myself. I mean, I wasn't
Right.
an amazing artist. It's just I loved to do it, and that
I've seen
something was
your
gone.
artwork. I would say you were an amazing artist. That's
Thank
beautiful
you.
stuff, really. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's so that's heart I know that's heartbreaking. I know that from talking to you and from talking to others who have lost something that was so personal to them and of such great joy. And so I hate that for you. I really do. And I do want to we'll share where people can is there still a website available so people can see your art?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
And I,
right.
I do
Well,
sell. Yeah,
that's fantastic. We're going to share that and we're going to put it in the show notes because I have seen it and it's beautiful.
thank
So
you.
let's fast forward to the beginning of the summer of 2021. Is that right? Yes. I spoke with you and you were at your wits' end. You were in a downward spiral. I don't think that's too strong to say at all. And um, your MS was rapidly advancing and making your life a living hell. I think that's the word you used actually. You told me you didn't know how much longer you could go on like that. And I remember telling you that I felt like you needed some purpose in your life and that if you'd give me a chance to help you through that summer, that if you didn't feel any better about your life in the fall, I would support you in your desire to find a way to end your suffering. What are your memories of that time?
Well, they're quite vivid, um, still to this
Yeah.
day. So it went on for months. I obviously was in a physically and sensory downward spiral, like a very, very fast trajectory.
Yeah.
And I was already living in a really a poor state as it was. And so when May hit and things went sideways so severely that I couldn't cope. I mean, I always say I can't cope, but like I really wasn't coping. There's just so much was the disease wasn't just always at the table of everything that I need, want, and desire to do. It was like so in my face that I couldn't do anything other than constantly clean up after myself or
Mm.
just try to survive. And I stopped just if I could eat, it was with my hands. There's yeah, it was it was really hideous. There just really wasn't any point in carrying on if that's how it was going to be on a permanent basis. And you, you know, I've thought a long time in over the years that this disease can cause so much suffering and I watched my dog go through a neurological decline and when he was falling over and unable to function, we ended his life. And it's like I'm actually worse than what my dog I'm living worse
Mm.
than my dog was living. And so what's up? Like something's got to give here and
Mm.
fast because
Mm.
I'm a sitting duck, right? Waiting for some major accident to happen, like breaking a hip because I'm falling, or and I get taken out on the stretcher and never to return, right? Or
Mm.
some and
Mm-hmm.
more relapse hits, and I'm completely unable to even speak or eat or whatever it is. So I just felt like a
Mm.
sitting duck, and
Yeah.
it was too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, I worked with you on getting your patient advocacy going through, like, we did some one on one coaching, and you were inside the Patients Getting Paid membership community. And I introduced you to some people, and you started writing articles for multiplesclerosis.net, and you worked on getting your website up. And I felt like, and I'm just interested to know if this is true, I felt like that helped in that you had some purpose, and from my perspective anyway, you you saw that you were helping others because people were giving you that feedback, right? Like they were thanking you for the articles, for sharing everything that you were going through. And I mean, I saw a change in you. Obviously, it wasn't a physical change, but mentally, I felt like there was a change because you were getting this feedback. You were seeing, your value because you were helping other people by sharing your story in your articles. Is that your recollection of it as well?
Well, thank you for all of that, and thank you for your support
Of
during
course.
that, and for everything that you did for me. And
Of
so,
course.
yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. So when I did write my first article, and then I get messages from people all over the world, and not a lot, but enough that were they were just so powerful and like it humbled me to hear somebody say something wonderful about what I had written that they could relate to and that it made them not feel so alone and that
Yeah.
it was helpful for them and so yeah it was a pretty amazing feeling I have to say.
Well, you're an excellent writer to begin with. I don't know that you thought that to begin with, but you really are. And also, your willingness to be vulnerable and just be honest and share. I think, um, that's something really lacking these days in the times of filters for every picture. I mean, everybody makes everything look so much better than it really is, and here you are going through hell and willing to share that. You're not trying to, cover it up or make it something other than what it truly is. And I think people really responded to that, and it was refreshing and it was helpful, and it was people who are going through much the same situation that you are really felt represented by you. And I hope I've said it in the past, but if I haven't, or I just want to echo it again, that I really appreciated it. I know a lot of people that resonated with a lot of people. And I think anytime somebody's willing to step up and be vulnerable and put themselves out there like that, to help other people, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I was on behalf of the MS community. I want to say thank you for doing that. That was fantastic. And I'm
Aw.
glad that you found some. I'm so glad people reached out to you and thanked you, because really, just know that, it was a small percentage of people who really should have reached out and thanked you, who really do thank you, but just didn't take the time. That's the way that works.
Mm,
But so about
thank
3
you.
months later after that, you were exploring HSCT, or maybe sooner, but from what you when you told me that you were looking into HSCT, which is a stem cell transplant. I don't know why I have trouble saying that, but I do. So, and now you're on your way to having that very difficult procedure done. So let's back up just a bit. Can you speak to how important having, purpose in your life is and what it's meant to you? Because I know we've talked about HSCT and what that has represented to you, but if you'd share that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, it's a very personal one to everyone. Everyone has their own why and their own purpose, whatever it may be, and you need to have one, and you need to have a why you're getting up every day or why you're doing something. For me, it's always been me because I'm not married and I don't have children, and I just have my dog, and since he's gone, so there's no why. And
Outside of
when
yourself. Yeah.
aside from me, right?
Right.
And when my days are so hideous that there's no point in living like that, where's the why, where's the purpose?
Right.
and
Yeah.
and so so a couple things all happened at the same time. Really, was that the writing started, and it was, even though I was feeling like couldn't see straight, couldn't feel straight about anything because it was so bad, I was
Yeah.
still trying to write and get that out. So there was like this part of me that was still kind of moving forward through this adversity. And then the other portion was like, a couple friends said to me like, okay, you have nothing to lose here. Like, why are you not trying the stem cell transplant? I know you've discussed it in the past and you've decided against it. So I circled around back to it again, and my neurologist has just constantly said it's not going to work for you. You've done these other drugs, and if alemtuzumab doesn't work for you, this isn't going to work for you. And so there'd been this negative, negative, negative. And of course, I'm a science geek. I read as much as I can. I know the clinical trials. I know where I sit. I know where like all of my, where my stats are on the
Mm-hmm.
the spectrum of this actually working for me. And so literally like came down to a decision where, well, I know my life is going to go, the trajectory is downhill and it's grisly. And we've known that. And it's really like really intense right now. So if that's a given, then, or at least a very high percentage that it's a given versus, well, stem cell transplant actually might stabilize my disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I might sit in a small percentage of people that it improves. I might
Mm-hmm.
be like that small percentage that has a miracle. Because I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
are some people that go in that have a very high probability that they will be a miracle story. I'm not one
Yeah.
of those people. I
Mm-hmm.
call it my Hail Mary treatment.
Yeah.
It's the
But you are
last
owed it, for
thing.
God's sake. You are owed it for sure, given what you've gone through.
Thank you. And so so the writing combined with doing this and saying, okay, why don't I give this a shot? I've got nothing to lose. And it started with my girlfriend saying, okay, I'll each two of them independently offering to lend me a bunch of money to get it going. And that's really how it all started. And then that was September, and it moved into October, and a lot of more research and discussions with the team and figuring out which place I wanted to go to,
Mhm.
and talking to them about it all, and then a final discussion with my neurologist, and he supported me,
Oh,
which
good.
was
That's unusual,
amazing. Yeah,
honestly.
it was
That's great.
after everything, but I had told him where I was living, like where my
Yeah.
head was at in terms of my
Yeah.
life and in not wanting to live like this anymore. And so
Mhm.
he goes, well, and that makes me really sad, but if you want to try this treatment, I mean, it may even stop your relapses. And I was like, oh my gosh, just to
Wow.
not have like
Try to imagine that,
relapses, just
right?
like that, and then maybe being stable and actually having a chance that my rehab will get me farther ahead as opposed to just,
Right.
just trying to keep crawling up the ladder. And yeah, so he said he would still be my neurologist, and we'd find me a
Fantastic.
the hematologist. It was the one that, specialized in, someone with MS and bone marrow transplant. So
Wow.
um, that's how it went down. And here we are.
Fantastic. Yeah, here we are. You're very soon to leave for Mexico. So let me just back up for a second. You shared with me, and you've given me permission to talk about this as well. I mean, we referenced it, right? So you were done. You were done. If this was not a possibility for you, your perspective on life going forward was very dark and very dim and very, you were done. So you shared with me that um, there's something in Canada called MAID, MADE, right? A medical assistance in dying. I don't know what the E is.
Made, like
Yeah.
MAID.
Oh, MAI. Okay, medical assistant in dying. Gotcha. So, and just to clarify, that's not, you don't just declare that. You have to go through a lot of, it's well beyond a conversation. There's neuropsychologists involved and a lot of like in depth psychological considerations, right? Because what they're trying to ascertain is that this is not a depressive season of your life. This isn't a decision you're making lightly or based on some mental health issue. This is, they're looking at the reality of your disease and the trajectory thereof and respecting your ability to understand all that, take it in, and make a fucking decision for yourself. So don't even get me started because I think this is fantastic and I want to move to Canada. But um, that had to be such a, I mean, was it surreal? Was it, um, I don't, how did that make you feel to be having these conversations? And did you feel like you had to sell the idea or sell them on the fact that you were, mentally fit to make this decision?
Gosh, yeah. So there's a lot in there that you
I
said. So I'll try to
I
start
know,
at
sorry.
the
That's a
beginning.
lot
Yeah.
to unpack. I'm sorry.
No, 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 it's all good. So the process in each province is a little different. So the one in BC, they have legal criteria that you have to meet, and so they have myriad of questions that they have to ask you, and then ascertain whether or not you meet that criteria.
Mm,
And so initially there was the one of the doctors, end of life care doctors, because they work with other people who are passing of natural causes or other diseases. And so
mhm,
she came in and spoke with me. So there's you know, um, my general practitioner had to fill out paperwork and send it off to the team, and then that triggers these
mhm,
people to come to speak, these end of life care physicians to speak with you. So they just wanted to get a story, get a sense of how I was living and what my life was like on a day-to-day basis, what I was physically feeling, what kind of pain I was dealing with, what treatments I'd done, alternative,
mhm,
Western pharmaceutical, all these things, and what were my options. And then did I have any left, right?
mhm,
And no, there was nothing available in Canada left for me to try because I had
mhm.
done them. I'd done the strongest and the best, and I want to live. Like I love
Right.
life. Like I live to the fullest, and I was that person when I was in my 20s, grateful of the smell of the roses
Mm.
and grateful that my little legs biked me up that mountain that day. And I thanked them. Like I lived like that. And so
Yeah.
I want to be able to do things that that give me joy on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And when you have
Right.
that taken away, so I explained all of those things to them, and of course there's medical questions that they need to ask, and then there's they go into your files. So everything, every doctor that you ever spoken to, and every scan of any part of your body that's ever done, they read through all those reports, and there's probably about, he said it was like an 8 or 12 inch stack of papers,
Jeez Louise.
and
Mm.
he read it all. So this was the fellow that actually would be putting the medicine in you should
Mm.
I make that date and go forward with it.
Mm.
And so he just said, I'm really sorry I have to ask you these direct questions. And I said, no, it's okay. I said, it's not a snap decision. I mean,
Right.
I've obviously had to think about it for a really long time, and you don't come to a decision like that lightly. You
Right.
don't. So by the time you get to that place, you have to know that if I'm there and I'm telling you that I'm there,
Yeah.
listen up, because I'm
Right.
at the end.
Yeah.
I've been
Right.
pushed past my end too often for too long, and this is it. So
Right.
um, and so he'd seen other consultations I'd had with neuropsychs, and all of them, all of the doctors have never said I have any depressive disorder or anxiety disorder, because I don't.
Yeah.
It's literally like I'm not coping. I don't want to go into a home. That's not where I want to be. And I
Right.
so much of other things that went into that process. And like I said, it was a very lengthy, but I didn't really. I guess because I was so reconciled with having these discussions, I was okay with whatever questions they asked me. And the
Mm-hmm.
biggest one was, you lost your art, you can't paint, and
Mm-hmm.
how. And I mean, not being able to exercise, and that makes me crazy too.
Right.
But the art was the thing that was the most. And I can't cry about that anymore, but I can sell my art as sheet clay prints, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I sold the original artwork, but they don't get the copyright. They just get the original artwork. So I can
Mm-hmm.
sell the sheet clay, the prints of my art. So that's made me really happy to be able to do that, and for all the unbelievable people who just stand by me no matter what, and the things that they do for me and give to me, and the generosity, on all levels, emotional, physical, financial. Like I can now give them a gift back with a print of my artwork that maybe they've chosen from my website.
Mm.
So
That's
long
beautiful.
circle around back to the process. That is all finished now. They saw no reason why. I met all the legal criteria that needed to be met, and it's all signed off on, and it's in place for many years. So like I think it goes 10 years. They want to reevaluate you at that time, but essentially that's done. And no, I never felt like I had to prove my case
Good.
at all.
Good.
It
Good.
was just
I'm
because
so glad
this
to
is
hear
how it
that.
is.
Yeah.
No,
I,
and they were, and the one thing is that I was describing the symptoms that I'm living with, and the only doctor that had ever seen or known what was happening to me was the doctor that had witnessed other people at the end of their life.
mm,
And so that's, my body was doing these things. It was telling me that it wanted, like this disease is trying to kill me, and it
mm-hmm.
was doing these horrific things. And she said to me, "Yeah, I've seen that before." And I'm like,
Mm.
and so, anyways, that was a relief. Like, okay, so
Yeah.
I'm not going crazy. I really am feeling like this disease is trying to, this poltergeist monsters.
Right. Yeah. Aptly
It's
named, by the way. You call it your poltergeist. And I think that's such a great description of it when you tell me this stuff that was going on. 100%. It was like your body was haunted.
yeah,
Yeah. It
yeah,
was
thanks.
taken over by the demon MS. And so just to finish up that portion, that's in place. And if that were to be your decision in the next, whatever, 10 years or however long that remains in effect, you can literally call them and say, this is the date that I've chosen. And
Yep,
that's
they
what's going
want.
to happen then. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I just wanted to clarify how that happens because we don't have that here. And I think that's respectful and I think that's the right thing, by the way. Um, it's your life. It's your life. But
Thanks.
now we have this HSCT, which you have told me has given you hope, which
Yes.
I'm so grateful for because I like that my Jenny has some hope. So, can you tell us a little bit about what HSCT is and what you're going to be what have you gone through anything leading up to it and what will you go through from the time you get there on? And you're going to Mexico, correct? They don't do this in Canada?
It's not an approved treatment in Canada, so
Gotcha.
they're doing it under the guise of research, and they have very narrow eligibility requirements, of which I do
Okay.
not fall into. So
Okay.
the only option is to go out of country. So yes, it's Monterrey, Mexico. And it's a 28-day process. And basically, the whole point is to obliterate your whole immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're given a really high dose of chemotherapy. So it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a bunch of chemotherapy. Then you're given shots of a particular drug so that the stem cells are then they travel out of your bone marrow and into your blood system, into your peripheral blood system, right? So that goes on for a number of days, and then you have to have because you're obviously your stem cells are in your bone marrow, which are your pelvis, your femur, your sternum, your ribs, all the bones, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they want to get these stem cells out of your body so that once and then you get more chemotherapy. Once you have enough of these stem cells in your blood system, they've obviously done a blood test to make sure that you're hooked up to a machine, kind of like dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a PICC line in or a vas cath, and one one line of blood goes into the machine. The stem cells are filtered out, and then the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the blood goes back in the other line. So that can be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours up to 6 hours, depending on how long it takes. And then you're given more chemotherapy, and then
So
you're
I'm sorry,
given your
Jenny. What you were saying is that they're actually extracting the stem cells from your blood, and just take and the blood without the stem cells goes back into you,
that's
right?
correct. Yep.
And then
Right.
more chemo after that.
Yep, to get rid of the rest of your immune system, your immune system being white blood cells.
Yeah.
So with a lot of MS drugs, they just target lymphocytes or, a small percentage of like T and B lymphocytes. These are like, it's your whole immune system. So the whole white blood cell count. And it's not too selective on what it kills. So it also takes out red blood cells and platelets. So you're pretty weak.
The
And
good and the
there's
bad. Yeah.
right? And so, and then you get your stem cells back in, and it's the whole point of that is to help your body rebuild your immunity back as quickly as possible, and other red blood cells and platelets and whatnot, because stem cells can grow into virtually anything. So you're in a state of very severe immune compromise because you have nothing there, and you're in isolation, and just have to wait it out. And you're given a lot of prophylactic medication, antiviral, antibiotic, antifungal, antiparasite drugs to make sure that any pathogens that come your way, they're taken care of. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it doesn't quite work and you need assistance, transfusions, maybe some hospital visits, whatever. But that's a very small percentage. And then when you've got enough of immunity back up at baseline, you're given a little bit more of a B cell depleter called rituximab, and then you go home and get home as quickly as possible, um,
Yeah.
so that you could be under, your hematologist care and your GP's care and whatnot. And so yeah, it's kind of it's a big deal.
It is a huge deal. And
Yeah,
you're doing it mid-COVID. That's got to be scary. Like traveling
yeah,
back would be nerve-wracking, I think. Are you nervous about
yes, I
that?
think. Not so much, I guess, about
You
that,
weren't before
but
I
it's
brought it up, or
no.
sorry.
I mean, anything could hit you, right? Somebody could have a common cold, or I could pick up,
True.
a parasite,
True.
right? So anything for me,
Mm-hmm.
and since I've done alemtuzumab, I've gone through years of being very, very immune compromised, and so I already have this very high alert and diligence of things around me. So yeah, I just want to get back to Canada And when you leave, they have you with eye covers and visors and double masks and things like that.
Wow.
So if you eat, I
Yeah.
think you're under a tent. And so COVID, I don't. I mean, COVID is another just, I guess, component. It's the big thing is that you don't want to get it on your way down there, because
Right.
then you
Exactly.
can't have the
God.
treatment. So that's the biggest
Oh, Lordy, Lordy. It's a
factor, I
lot
guess.
to concern yourself with. It's a very serious procedure with very real risk factors. What are you most nervous about?
um, Puking a lot. I
Mm, I don't
really,
blame you, girl. I
really
hate that.
hate that. I
Oh, me
hate it, and
too.
I've just been so
Oh,
sick from even ocrelizumab. Like I
yeah.
7 weeks puking and nausea. Like I hate it.
Yeah.
And then that vas cath or the PICC line like that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just so that's what I'm, I guess, most nervous about. The rest is the recovery is arduous and long, and it's going to be tough, and
And
that's hard.
what's involved in the recovery? I mean, is it mostly resting? Is it seeing lots of different docs when you get home? What goes on in recovery?
I think I probably don't know exactly what, because I haven't experienced it yet. So almost things that are unknown, right? So there's that component, but the one component for sure is that you got to wait till your blood cell count, your white blood cell count gets high enough. Your red blood cells and platelets are in a good range, and they're solidly in a good range. So that's happening. So that's it takes a lot out of your body, right? You're weak. So obviously my functionality is going to go down. When your functionality goes down, as you know, with MS, when you don't use it, you lose it. So
Right.
with that in mind, that that there's a lot of neurological redevelopment, getting those
Mm,
pathways firing again, right? So maybe physiotherapy, particular types of physiotherapy, stuff on my
mm-hmm,
own,
mm,
someone coming to my house or me going to get it.
mm-hmm,
Obviously, doctors, hoping things don't go sideways,
mm-hmm.
so that I don't have to have any ER visits,
Right.
and just wait.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to work really hard at recovery on all levels.
And the ultimate hope is that it will stop this shit in its tracks, right? I mean, typically there's not, don't they say, I have a very limited knowledge, by the way, but I'm the first to admit, but my understanding with HSCT is they say the goal is to stop MS because you are uh, really changed up your immune system, right? But that typically it doesn't improve any former damage. But going from this point forward, the hope is that the MS is stopped.
Yes, they say just have your hopes set on stopping progression.
Yeah.
Decline is a more appropriate word than
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
progression.
That is a good word.
So
Yeah.
just,
Right.
um, and if you have any improvement, then be grateful for. So obviously, to not have relapses, to be stable. Like I haven't ever lived with MS without either of those in my life
Right.
in this whole 8 years. And then, and like obviously, it would be, if I'm that small percentage of people that have an improvement, something that would be
Yeah.
just so blissful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, you live your life in such gratitude anyway. I mean, it's always been really inspiring to me in the time that I've known you that no matter how bad it was, and we've had some conversations that were pretty bad, but you still always, without exception, turned it around and said something like, but I'm so grateful for something. You always found gratitude in every situation, and it's been amazing. And to me, that is a superpower, my friend, and that will serve you so well in what you're about to undergo. Um,
thank you.
and I'm so
It's
proud
really
of
nice.
you. I'm so proud of you.
Mm.
I mean, who keeps that good attitude during the shit storm that you've been through and signing up for another one? But you're really quite an extraordinary human, and
Oh,
I'm very proud of you. for
Aw.
what you're doing, and particularly in that you're sharing yourself and your story with others, because it's just gonna, I mean, you could just do this privately and just, that might be more comfortable, but you're tracking your HSCT journey on your website and you're blogging about it with plans to do some videos. It's so selfless. It's so kind. And um, I don't know that I took time to tell you that before, but
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
proud of you and I'm amazed by you. And the kindness that you're extending to our community is really touching. And thank
Oh,
you. Thank you
you
for that, my
gosh, made
sweet
me
Jenny.
making me tear up. Thank you.
Well,
That's such wonderful,
yes,
beautiful things to
it's all
say.
true. It's all true, my friend. So I referenced this website and your blogging and your plans for videos. Where can people learn? Where can people find out more about you, about this HSCT journey, about your artwork? Where do they go?
So I have a website. Well, I have two. Well, one is a subdomain. So the patient one, the MS one with the blog, is a subdomain of my own art website, jennyangus.com. So it's ms.jennyangus.com.
Okay.
So just got that fairly recently up and rolling, and I've got some articles up there, some blogs up there, and I've got another one to post. And as sort of stuff comes in, I'm trying to get it up there and then link in my articles that I've written for multiplesclerosis.net, because it's a lot of time is put into those.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, so I think it's, and then I've got a YouTube channel. I'll just link in the videos to the
Yeah.
website when I have videos done.
Excellent. And just to let everybody know, if you're new to the pod, I do take all the notes for you and they're in the show notes. So just go to fumsnow.com/podcast and search for this podcast, and all the links to everything that Jenny's got will be right there. So you can go find her artwork, and track along with her on this journey. And I hope you'll come back and give us an update.
Sure, of course, I would
That'll
be
be
honored to
great.
come
Well,
back.
we're all going to be pulling for you. I know you have a GoFundMe campaign to help pay for this very expensive procedure too. So, if there's anybody who would like to lend their support, where do they go for that?
I have a GoFundMe page, and I think I've sent you the link.
Yeah,
Where it's gone really, really well. People have been very,
good,
very generous with me, so I'm eternally grateful and blessed for that
excellent. Well,
support.
people love you, my friend. All right, I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. So, anybody that would like to lend their financial support to Jenny, that's where you can do it. So I'm just really grateful to have this front row seat to your journey and know that so many others will benefit by your willingness to share it. Thank you for that. Thanks for being here today and sharing with the FUMS community. And good luck with everything, Jenny. I hope you will come back and tell us how phenomenally well everything went and how you stopped that fucker in its tracks and things have gotten so much better. That's my plan. Um,
Thanks,
so,
Kathy.
thank you. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff before you go. We here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. If you would please, Jenny, lead us in our salute to the bastard with middle fingers extended, of course. On three, are you ready? One,
Ready?
two, three.
FUMS.
Oh, good one. I felt that one. Good job, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Take good
Thank you
care.
so much, Kathy. You take
Best
care
of luck.
too.